Presented in partnership with Barra Brava Brewing. This is Lumpen FC.
Welcome back. You're listening to WLPN LP Chicago 105.5 FM Lumpen Radio. You are listening to Lumpen FC. Glad to have you all back. If you want to get in contact with us, you can hit us on Insta at Barra Brava Brewing Co. You can also email us at lumpenfcradio@gmail.com. And if you want to be a part of the show, watch us on Twitch at Lumpen TV. We'll try to get to any of the questions or any of the comments that you guys make on Twitch while we're on the show. We have a big crowd in here today because we're going to be talking about supporters groups, which is a big part of soccer, football globally. Usually it doesn't get covered that much on the news unless, you know, the fights break out in the stands or the stadium gets set on fire.
Yeah, people getting stabbed. You know,
people do get stabbed. It happens. Which is not a great thing.
It's just passion.
But the news tends to only cover the negative side of the SG groups, not always the other side. So, of course, as you know, my name is Adrian. I'm here with
Jamie J.
And Sebastian.
And as part of supporters groups, we have Nate here from Sector Latino.
Hello.
Pete, who just joined the BPF, the Bridgeport Pilsen firm.
Yes, sir.
And Mauricio from Barnes Burners and Section 8. All local, Chicago Fire, Chicago fans. All of them different fans of EPL teams and different fans of European teams and South American teams, which, you know, rule-breaking, but whatever.
Oh, it's also Adrian's birthday. It was yesterday.
No, it was
so
yesterday.
We're just going to throw that out there. And then you want to say, but hey, happy birthday, Adrian.
Thank
man.
you.
You know,
Appreciate it, guys.
Getting
Appreciate
younger
it.
by every year, brother. You know what I'm saying? Just
Yeah,
letting you know.
no, that's not. The baldness says that's a lie. That's a lie. So thank you guys for joining us. We're going to talk a lot about the perspective of SGs, what the individuals see SGs from. But let's get started with a little bit of the history of SGs. So for all of you listening in on the radio and watching us on Twitch, what is a football supporters group? It's kind of difficult to explain because it's changed so much over 100 years. A supporter group, as defined by Oxford Dictionary,
Oh, boy.
that's how we're going to start this, is a group of people with common experiences and concerns who provide each other with encouragement, comfort, and advice. A football supporters group just is going to dial that up a little bit, dial that to 11. Where are we saying? It is believed. No, that's not how it's going. It is believed that the first organized groups of football fans started to appear in Argentina in the 1950s. All this is not history that's solid. It's just, you know, the notes that were taken over time. However, these organized groups started as cliques of fans as early as the early 1920s. First recorded one by journalism was La Barra de la Goma, appearing in press reports in Argentina around 1927. With the world growing very quickly in the fields of communication, media, and global journalism, the subculture of Barra Bravas from Argentina spread to Europe. In my research of this history, I was not able to lock down who was the first at starting an organization group in Europe. Croatia could have been one of them, in the European scene, but there is a sizable opinion that Italy took the honors with their formation of the Ultras in the 1960s. As I was reviewing that closer and closer to the two that we got here, that might be a lie. From Barra Bravas and Torcidas to Ultras, Firms, and Hinchas, the supporters group subculture had entered the world within these groups made up of local and regional people that all had their own political, economic, and religious beliefs, except in the USA. From the late 1960s to the 1980s, England had many issues with what was classified as hooliganism. It's always a hard word for me to say. From football SGs. Keep in mind, it was not just England. Many books, movies, and documentaries from this era have been produced. There are even songs and chants that remain from those eras, from those days, still used today to ruffle up some of the fans' feathers and some of the team's feathers. The last holdout of the SG subculture was the USA. When Major League Soccer was founded in December 17th of 1993, in order for the World Cup to take place in the USA on June 17th of 94, all that would change. Since then, MLS has gone through some growing pains with the SG culture. With the soccer fans of the United States already familiar with global soccer culture, the owners, founders, and commissioners seem to not be prepared for an SG type of fan base. From Antifa, LGBTQ, and other political displays in the stands, self-described hooligans, supporter ownership, ticket prices, fighting over stadium handouts for the billionaires, and so much more would become part of the American culture because of SG subculture. From the Yellow Wall at Dortmund, La Doce at Boca Junior, the formation of the, and I might mess this up, the Fanleden at St. Pauli, all of the history of SGs as well as the modern examples of football fandom can be seen here in the USA. And that is what we're going to talk about today.
We're not talking about that Netflix show?
We're going to talk about what?
The Netflix show, man. The hooligan Netflix show, man.
I haven't watched it.
There's a hooligan Netflix show.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
And I got rid of
I don't have
Netflix.
Netflix.
I just canceled my
I just
Netflix.
put that in there when you were saying that earlier, but the hooligan was like, oh, yeah, because, when I first got you, just Green Street Hooligan, you're talking about, like,
Yeah.
bring it up, right?
Well, yeah,
That's not the only
those
one.
Green
That's
Street.
not the only
Like
one. Green Street is
That was like
a classic.
now it's like Netflix has something called Hooligan now. I was like, oh,
That one's in Poland.
yeah.
Is it a documentary series or is it just like
just
a fake story?
Yeah, I think it's some dude that got into. It's like he's like a ultra and a drug runner or something like that. I haven't seen it. But it looks interesting. I don't know, but I was just thinking, hey,
first.
right, hey, it's on my watch list. All right, I'm gonna get to it. Trust. I'll tell you everything as it gets down later. I'll tell you everything.
Yeah,
maybe
well,
next show.
yeah,
I'll
definitely.
binge watch it. And I'll
There
break
you
it
go.
down to you.
Definitely want to find out what it's about. Well, let's get started with what is it from your perspective, guys? What an SG should be, could be, should live up to, not live up to. Not only that, individually, I'd like to know what your personal background is with SGs. Like, how did you become part of an SG? How did you learn about SGs? Because I know we all come from different backgrounds. I grew up right on the border with Mexico, so it was part of already knowing what that was going to be like, what it was going to be like here in the United States. Of course, watching the differences, the way U.S. corporate structure deals with the SGs is different, but I had a different background. Let's go ahead and start with you, Dave, because I know you traveled. So,
Well, with me, it's like for traveling, it was just being a military brat. I mean, supporters group. I mean, you just witnessed everything I saw just on TV. It was not like I never really truly was ever be part of anything. Mm-hmm. It was just like as a military brat, you always traveled in the world, so you got to see things like Dortmund's crowd, and like the Barca crowd. You got to see stuff like that because that was just always on the TVs. So like this is actually this show and in this little Bridgeport firm thing where we're starting, even going to that little meeting a couple weeks ago. This is like the first time of me actually, getting involved and seeing what support groups really about. Like I'll go to games. Like, we go to fire games all the time. But like we just kind of float around and see what's going on. But like that meeting that we went to is kind of my first real like experience about ups and downs of the supporters groups and the stress that it can bring and how our brothers perhaps there's lazy on now or whatever. He has to deal with all that. So like I was like, all right, I'm very interested to see how this all turns out, to be honest with you. So like this is all an educational moment for me, just because another part of me enjoying the beautiful game, but like kind of getting into supporters groups. Like I'm a rookie to this, so it's kind of cool. Like I've never experienced it because again I was just playing. I was a young kid. I wasn't going out to games. I was just traveling around. This I can now that I'm old enough, independent enough that I can just do things like this. Like this is going to be my first real experience, like actually doing with the SG group rather than like being physically, rather than just reading stuff in the news, and watching videos on Reddit. There's some good ones. There are some good ones, but I'll tell you what, there's some good ones. But yeah, this is a stepping stone for me, so I'm actually pretty excited.
Excellent. Nate.
Yeah, I think for me being a Liverpool fan for a long time, I liked learning about the history of those fans and how they embodied the Scouse identity and how that sometimes brought them into conflict with groups from around England and Europe. And then as a part of that, alongside the Aberdeen soccer casuals, kind of pioneering that fashion and movement within fan culture that really was a result of Liverpool doing well in Europe and going to these European countries and being maybe a little bit more streetwise and just robbing these sports goods stores of what was really supposed to be tennis gear. And then you basically would bring it back to your neighborhood, and it was a badge of honor that not only did you go over to watch Liverpool in continental Europe, but you came back with some trophies, and then that spawned a fashion movement that's still around to this day. Mauricio's got the badge in earlier, so he's an example of it. And then personally, when I moved to Chicago and started coming to Fire games, I think, I started off in Section 8 and in the Harlem end, and then had always enjoyed the Latin side of soccer in South America and Mexico and all of that. So started to move over to Sector and really found that it resonated with what I felt a supporter group should be and what I wanted to do for the 90 minutes during the game and beyond it, and really just focus on what I see as the core elements, which is like banners, away travel, and then 90 minutes of music during the match. So that's how I found my way over there, and I've been there ever since.
Nice. Thank you. Pete, I know you don't have you have a headset. Sorry. We usually don't have this many people in the room.
Yeah, we know what he sounds like.
So I have a very similar experience as Jamie. I've never really been a part of a organized supporters group before. I've always been a part of Arsenal America, so I've been able to get tickets through them, and then when I go to games in London, it gives me an opportunity to sit in the same section as other Arsenal America supporters. So that's how I meet people that way, and then you kind of develop friendships there, and then you meet people within London. So every time I go, I have people on WhatsApp I could hit up to go to pubs with and things. So informally, I've been a part of the supporters group. I've been going to Fire games for years and years now because I grew up right down from the stadium, and so I was always participating in all the songs. I learned all the songs, but I was never like in the group. I was always to this section just to the left of Section 8 in the Harlem end there. So that's now that I'm getting more into the supporter culture and more organized, I'm really happy to have the opportunity to help this new supporters group, the BPF, and really start building that knowledge of the base. But I've always been around football, so meeting people at pubs and building like friendship groups there, and constantly watching games together. So it's more informal supporter groups, seeing the same people over and over again, commiserating together all the time. That's how I've experienced games and learned through that way. I was just in India. I was in their supporters group. I was about to ask you, singing. Dude, they have big microphones and drums. Some very, very fruity chants. I'll tell you. Cheeky, I should say, not fruity. Cheeky. But
were they Bollywood style?
Oh, it's not.
How did everybody start dancing?
That'd be cold. That'd be real cool.
I'd be impressed.
Yeah,
He would have
pretty
sent us
good
that video.
banners and stuff. And
You would have
everything.
sent us that video.
I'm assuming. We want to know about this experience, so I'm assuming that the stadium regulations aren't the same here. So a lot more flares, less flares, more smoke, not
Oh
any
no,
smoke.
it's actually more strict. So you
really?
can't bring,
Wow.
you can't have visible
no
cameras.
no pyro at all.
No, nothing.
Oh, wow, okay.
You barely are able to bring drums and like big speakerphone.
Oh,
And
wow.
Anything more than that, they really clamp down. The security is
That's crazy
real
though, because
heavy.
I've seen the cricket games. I haven't seen many of the soccer games. And the cricket games, the fan base is wild, like just insane.
Can you drink?
No.
No. Okay. Not at all. Like
It's
no.
gonna hurt that.
Oh, okay.
Was it more English style or more like Bollywood, like traditional Indian music style?
It was more English style.
Okay.
So it was very, like I said, cheeky language. A lot of F-bombs in their chants, going hard on the refs.
Really?
Yeah.
Do they throw things on the stage?
But can you?
They don't throw the things on the
We're
field.
too far away from you'd never be able to make it to the field.
Oh, so they play like an Olympic track field?
Oh,
Kind
yeah.
of? Okay.
It's
Are
okay.
like
you
Olympic
able
Stadium.
to bleep a chant for us?
Like F you ref, you need an Oscar.
Okay.
I like it. We might use that
I'm
one.
stealing that one. Yeah.
We're gonna steal that
Why
one.
would
We
the
stole
ref
it from
be
India.
acting?
Just go with it, all
Go
right?
with it, man. Like,
Yeah.
it's Indian supporter culture, man. They
Or
gotta do
just
it.
like just straight like they'd learn the players' names of the other team and just be like F you Messi, F you, and that would be like
okay.
I did that in high
a
school.
2-minute long chant of just screaming that.
There you go.
And I did not see that. That was like the third chant after standing there, and I'm like, what is going on?
Nice. Very nice.
But the atmosphere outside of the stadium was really good. You had like the meetups. Oh man.
You know, Charlie's okay. He's okay.
Is he all right?
Okay. He all right, man.
You had like the supporter group meet up, and then that's where you did have more like the Bollywood stuff, where you had dancing and singing and stuff like that going on. But then once you got into the stadium, it became more traditional chants.
I'm a little
Okay,
disappointed
nice.
you didn't send us a video of that.
How's
I got
the
them on my phone.
Okay, all right. Well, all right. Put that in rotation, please. Go ahead
like
and do that.
one of the big things here in the United States? Okay, so you leave the stadium, then you go to your local bar. You go to your local. Is it more like of that over there? Like they go straight to bars, or they do more of a?
They would go out to dinner.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Dinner. game.
Oh wait, what? Oh.
Yeah, they'd go hit up every time they wanted me to go with. They would all go to the same spot for dinner. It's the drinking culture isn't as strong there. It's just getting started in the last like decade or so. And Bangalore is one of the few cities that has a lot of breweries, but it's not this. It's not built around the drinking culture, kind of like traditional supporters groups are.
Okay, so then, what were you drinking? 2, what'd you eat? What was like after the game? What was the food? What'd you eat after the games?
So I would eat dosa a lot after the games, which is like a stuffed pancake almost.
What was the stuff with?
Potatoes.
Okay,
Yeah.
vegetarian.
A very heavy vegetarian community. Like 95% of the country is vegetarian.
Well, what kind
potato
of
stuffed
did
pancake,
you-
that sounds
when you-
delicious.
I knew you sent us some pictures of the beers. What kind of what was the beer of choice though for you when you were out there?
So there was a lot of really good New England and West Coast IPAs
Yeah,
out there.
there you go.
Ah.
Like there was one specific bar that had a New England IPA that smelled just like an orange. Like you'd go to
Oh, really?
pick it out, it was like,
Well,
holy
that's what
cow,
you're trying to do.
Straight citrus. It was
Okay.
delicious, and they're
I
like
drink it.
$2.
Yeah.
So there's a lot. So there's a lot of basically American type culture, British type culture. Of course.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah,
that's
it
awesome.
was
That's
kinda-
awesome.
I didn't see anything that like came out as traditional Indian in the culture. It seemed like they took a lot from all the other cultures and kind of merged that together.
And do they have like actual SGs, or is it just like the group is just one?
It's actual SG, yeah.
Okay. All right. Nice.
Yeah. The traveling fans aren't as strong unless it's like a big rivalry. So if I would have stayed a couple more weeks, there's another town on the West Coast called Kochi. They'll travel like 50,000 fans to Bangalore.
50,000.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Can they all get
How
tickets?
big is the stadium?
Yeah.
Oh, it's
I was about to say.
Yeah,
That's-
because they're like Olympic-sized state. At least the one in Bangalore is Olympic-sized.
100% in there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Still.
But like that's just that one game,
That
and then
is-
they won't travel to any other games.
Got to be a logistic nightmare, like security alone. Like, wow. Oh, wow. That's ridiculous.
You gotta work that day. You wake up. Oh.
Oh man, that's today.
That's the day, man. I went out last night. I ain't dealing all this.
Right. The other thing there, I did drink a lot of whiskey as well.
Ooh. Just so you all
Like
know.
whiskey made in India. Like Indian whiskey?
Some of the rot gut was
Oh.
that I had was from India.
Don't tell me you was drinking like Jack Daniels.
Because it was so cheap, I would drink like Glenlivet.
Oh
yeah, I drank some good stuff while I was out there.
Okay.
Because like a glass of that is like $5.50.
Wow.
What?
Yeah.
Man, I would have messed with those 550. That's crazy. That's wild.
That would be
Bangalore,
very
man.
dangerous.
It's,
That'd be
uh,
super dangerous.
Yeah. There you go.
You did get my jersey though, right?
Yes, I did.
Question. So I have a real question before we move on because I know we're doing, but like, was
Yeah,
there
keep
like I feel like for me like getting I actually think it was like maybe because I'm actually getting older and getting out of like the days of playing too, and I just want to be still heavily involved with soccer. I was like, is that something that maybe because you said you're getting too late? Do you think that's like something for you too as well? Like I don't know because you're still playing, but like I'm gonna hang him up. This is about it. It's his
Knees can't handle it
But
anymore?
like I find myself enjoying more things like this
Right.
than actually going out there on a pitch and running around and being in pain.
Right. Yeah. So I'm not quite that old yet. So I
Thank
still I still have some years left in me, but I definitely agree. I have so much passion and so much knowledge of the sport that to just sit idly by and not be involved in something after having been involved as a player for so much of my life, that I think that I am drawn to it that way.
Right.
And the more I've spent in getting to know the different supporters groups for the Fire, and then meeting all the Mars guys, that brought me to want to be more involved in a more organized sense as well.
Nice. Sweet.
Like a little sneak diss call me old. I see that. See what that bar tab be like next time.
Surcharges.
And Mauricio, go ahead and tell us your experience with the SGs.
Yeah, actually, my perspective is a little different, right? Because my first experience with the SGs was actually the American perspective of it all, right? I moved here, to Chicago from Guatemala when I was 8. So even though I've been around, football my entire life, and some of the earliest memories I have is watching, Municipal on TV in Guatemala. When I came here, I didn't quite have that link to the city. All of a sudden, it's 99. My uncle takes me to my first Fire game. They're wearing a red kit, right? So it just automatically clicked in my mind. I'm like, oh, so I guess this is my team. This is it, right? It's red. Makes sense. And I just remember being there and seeing, Section 8 or Barn Burners at the time right there, what actually was the section number 8 of Soldier Field, and just seeing the chaos, right? And the flags and the jumping, and obviously my entire family sitting there like, oh my God, are those guys standing on the chairs? Like, why are they jumping like that? And I'm like, absolutely they are. And this is it, right? I see my future. And then it wasn't until, I'm gonna say maybe like 2010 that I first stepped into the Heartland at Toyota. And that was the first time I just came in there because somebody had invited me, and I didn't know where our seats were. So I'm just like, all right, cool. I guess this is it, right? And I had one of the older souls of Section 8, Ben Burton, kind of walk up to me. He's like, hey, man. He's like, you come here often? I'm like, oh, no, not really. First time here. He's like, all right. He's like, buy season tickets. It's the cheapest ticket in town. He's like, probably it's the best deal. I'm like, all right, this is it, right? And then my girlfriend, now wife, at the time, I'm like, all right, I guess we're getting season tickets, and this is gonna be our entire life, right? So like, this is all. So for that point on, it was season ticket after season ticket, spending whatever bucks I could on that, and
Did you propose at the stadium?
I did not. Oh, should have killed me. I did ask if I could have smoke bombs at the wedding, though, and slightly reluctant. So it didn't happen during the actual ceremony, but we're just waiting for our Uber at the end of the ceremony. I'm just standing there with a smoke bomb. I'm like, all right, here we go. But anyways, I just kept on just showing up as a casual fan, just not really part of any supporter group. First away game I actually went to was Washington, D.C. Watch that Fire squad play DC United. I think we had gone like a year and a half without an away game win. And first away trip I went to was actually with Sector, and it was a great time. And then I was hooked. Right, I'm like, that's it. My goal now is to visit every away stadium I can. And still kept on showing up, not really part of any supporter group until I'm gonna say like 2021, when I started meeting the guys from Barn Burners, and just like that definition you read, right? I think it became a very supportive group. People I clicked with, people I wanted to hang out with, not just at the pitch, but outside of it. And then I was like, all right, cool. I guess these are the people that like my same music, and it all just made sense, right? And it's a little. Like the dichotomy of it all for me was different, right? Because I do come from a Latino background. I speak Spanish, 80% of the time at home. But then also, like, again, my first introduction to all this was through Section 8 and Barn Burners, so everything was in English. So it's, trying to make up and build up my own way of supporting. And it made sense, right? Like, I was like, cool, I could stand here and cheer all those cheeky chants with all these guys. And then, every couple of minutes I'll walk over to Sector and just, go with all the full-on Spanish chants. And, it just made sense. So I found my group there, and later on, it was just kind of started getting more involved and, spending more time at the pitch and, coming up on Thursdays and Wednesdays and whatever Fire thing happened, I'd be there. Until last year, they decided to run for the board of Section 8, which, if I can, just for those that don't know, there's obviously all these different supporter groups we're talking about, right? Like Sector, Barn Burners. And so Section 8 is kind of just like the umbrella that encompasses all those people. And, I did think, like, all right, like, this could be way better, and I could do more, and I have ideas, and I see how, we could improve things, and I decided to run for the board for that, and did a whole year of like just working as events chair, trying to come up with things, and last December, I ran for the chair position of it, and here I am, right? So now it's it's been very successful, I think, because since I took over, just because it has given me a little more of a voice, and it's given me a little more of like space to bring up everything I say, right? And like be able to tell people like, hey, no matter if you want to sing English, Spanish, whatever you want to do, just bring me your ideas and let's make them happen, right?
Right.
Yeah. But that's my story,
Nice. Excellent. Sebastian?
I don't really have much of a history with supporters groups other than what I went through with when I was a season ticket holder with the Fire. I would mostly when we would take like because you used to be able to take like the buses out there.
Those were fun,
those like
man.
party buses. Those were the best.
Yeah.
I would either end up somehow, especially if I went by myself, if you weren't coming with me or if I didn't have anybody to come with me, I would either end up at Section 8 or I actually towards the end I ended up more in Sector Latino, which is why I was so mad when that whole thing happened where they shut Sector Latino down for a while, and which is why I basically haven't become a season ticket holder ever since that happened. But that was pretty much my only experience. I'm not. I don't really have I'm not really that kind of person where I'll join a group and like rah the whole time. I'm like, I want to watch the game, and
Yeah, we know that. He stands up.
He
Doesn't
does.
get right in front of the TV. We'll move.
yeah, I don't I'm too focused on the game where but I do enjoy having that around. It's really weird. It's like, I don't like being in the middle of the supporters groups, but I like it right next to me, Right. And Sector Latino was like the funnest for me. I understood a lot of the chants, being Latino myself, and everything being in Spanish, and a lot of the characters that are in Sector Latino remind me of my friends and my family back home, and it just felt good to have that. But also, it's like, I want to watch them kick the ball over here, guys. Like, I'm not gonna be the one yelling and all that sort of stuff. But all the same, I liked supporting it because it was part of home. The best experience I have seen was in Europe when I went to Cologne and versus Stuttgart, and Stuttgart came in to the stadium, and man, their supporters group was almost like a military. They were so well organized, and they didn't stop singing the entire 90 minutes. I don't know where they found the energy. It was very, very impressive. So having those experiences are very, seeing how it is in Europe and how it is in the US, yeah, it's very, very different. But
Was it all the good beer?
oh yeah, that too. That always works.
Good beer.
That always
were, they
helps.
the,
Cologne.
were they the away fans?
They were the Stuttgart away fans. They were.
How were the
they
Cologne fans?
They were bananas.
Cologne's my Bundesliga team. Well, Bundesliga 2 for right now.
I'll tell you what, they were good, but Stuttgart was really impressive.
Nice.
Really well organized. And I didn't even see them drinking. They were really just kind of we're here to yell at everybody. It's like, okay, all right, dang,
Let
man,
it
this
out.
is- yeah,
It was a tough work week.
Everyone's taking shirts off and everybody, let's go. It's like, okay, dang. So yeah.
That's awesome. Thanks you guys for sharing. I appreciate it. We are right up against the 30-minute cutoff that we'll go to break. My experience, again, like I said, growing up on the border, my first actual group experience was also here with Sector Latino and Section 8. My first welcoming was not so awesome. You might remember this one because I was living in Houston at the time. So I was wearing my Dynamo jersey when I came to visit. I was only visiting,
Yeah.
and
Not a good
was
move.
I was politely asked to leave.
like getting spat in the face. Yeah, that's a
Hey,
nice
look, it's
way to do
supporters
it.
group sections. I understand. I did not cheer. When we did score, and I did have my Texas flag, which I did not wave, of course, because
No, you wore it like a
you have
cape
rules.
is what you did.
I wore it like a cape. There are rules. There was an away section. Apparently, I didn't know that there was an away section because there was nobody in it. And then when the cops were like, "Yeah, dude, we gotta, we gotta release the tension here," and I was like, "Oh no, I'll go over there. That's fine."
Were you
but
by yourself?
I was the only. I think I want to say I was the only Houston fan here at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Houston
respect
fans aren't
that.
going to travel this far. And then back then
respect
there was
that.
the what was it? We did have.
There was a band for a while.
There was, right.
Yeah.
But
Well, we'll get back to that one in a second. We do have to go on break. You're listening to WLPN LP Chicago 105.5 FM Lumpen Radio. You are listening to Lumpen FC, and we will be right back.
Yes, Gomez Peña is back. The Mix Files are back in Lumpen Radio. Now, broadcasting from both San Francisco Califas and Mexico City. Acompáñenos.
Do you hate country music?
Not against Country My Way with Lawrence Peters.
That's right, Country My Way with Lawrence Peters. Classic and obscure gems of honky-tonk, bluegrass, countrypolitan, outlaw, western swing, country funk, all the goodest kinds of country music.
Now every Wednesday from 4 to 6 p.m.
On WLPN 105.5 FM Chicago.
Buddy gives artists and small manufacturers in Chicago a place to showcase and sell their goods and artworks. Buddy retails to a vast audience of Chicagoans and visitors at the Chicago Cultural Center. Buddy is a shop as local as it gets. Buddy is part of the nonprofit Public Media Institute. Visit hi-buddy.org for more information.
Promo. 30-second promo. 30-second promo. You've never heard anything like this before. It's postmodern talking with Bobby Kahn and DJ LeDuce. Only on WLPN 105.5 FM. 30-second promo.
Welcome back. You're listening to WLPN LP Chicago 105.5 FM Lumpen Radio. You're listening to Lumpen FC. So that was the event that I first started here. But as soon as when I moved here, that was years before I moved here. When I moved here, got with Sector Latino, never actually joined. We're joining the group. Where do I sign? Nah, it wasn't like that. I just got involved and kind of just, come on in, buddy. Let's go. And, jumping around, falling down the stairs, the whole 9 yards. I am the opposite of Sebastian. I love watching the game. When I'm watching MLS, I just don't feel like I'm watching, top quality. I'm used to watching higher quality football. I get it. It's MLS. They're young. They're new. So for me being in the crowd, it's this is what I want to do,
you can always watch the replays after. I think a lot of us that are in the groups, don't necessarily have the best view or might be engaged in other things during the game. So you can always watch the replay or sometimes a condensed highlight type of thing. You're not necessarily going to get the same view, but I think to me when it comes to MLS or if anyone is a fan of lower league teams and stuff is really the benefit is the in-person experience. Yeah.
One of the things I do enjoy is being out there with the community. I'm not going to say that we're all the same or we're all, clones of each other. But out there having fun with the community, having a good time. Does stuff go wrong every now and then? Sure. Is there issues with other people? Sure. But that's part of being around other humans. You're going to run into problems. You're going to run into issues. Not everyone is, well behaved. And then once you start introducing alcohol to the situation, when you start introducing, now that, marijuana is legal-ish in Illinois.
Hold up.
It's not a show about marijuana, man.
All right. Point fingers now. All right. We'll be in the back, man. We'll be getting violent, man.
So, situations are going to occur, and I get that. But then also working through those situations with your community, that's part of that. It's part of growing as a community. But another question that I have, especially for the ones that have traveled and watched in other areas, how different do you feel it is from what we do here or how we work here as SGs? Because I know you just Stuttgart fans were absolutely. Yeah. So for them to get in that, I don't want to say that they are militant, but in that state, in that capability of organization, there has to be something that we don't do or we don't do here in Chicago or in many of the places that I see. I mean, it's not even LAFC is that organized, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I wish I knew, because that was very impressive, like how they were able to do that. It's almost like they practice, you know, like the way they were marching in, they were already playing music and already chanting, and they actually, I mean, it must be how they organize it over there, because it seemed, at least in that stadium, they had like their own way to come in so they could avoid everybody else. They let them all come in all at once. So again, like anybody who wasn't,
Well, they are an away crowd, though, right? So security wise,
right.
We definitely
right.
don't do that here.
No, because they just take it more seriously, for lack of a better term, than we do here. But it seemed like these guys, like, it's almost like they get together after school, you know, or something, like some sort of a group of, like, you know, like a sport. It's like they treat it like a sport themselves, like they're part of that team, and they were all like in sync. They all knew who was gonna wave what flag, and they knew what song was gonna come next, so they knew, like, you know, just to keep going for the full 90 minutes. And I feel like you have to, if you're going to do that. If that's like the goal, like, you have to practice this, you know. This isn't just something where, like, let's get together and drink some beers, you know.
A good example of that we have here in the United States, and anybody that's a football fan or even a basketball fan, a very good example of that is Texas A&M University.
Yeah.
And that is very well organized. They do practice the night before. Everybody has to go. You learn the hand signals. You learn what the cheers are going to be. If there's a new one that's going to be introduced, it gets introduced the night before.
Yeah.
Literally practice it.
Yeah.
And then at the stadium the next day, they're all in unison. And it's all, when you're looking at an entire half of the stadium full of the student body, right? It's the student body. They all know the chants. They all know the cheers. And you can hear them from miles away.
Yeah.
You can hear them from distance.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the other groups around the world, Germany is certainly a good example, is that there's a sense of responsibility to the group and the team, and that does not occur here as much. Whereas, like, a lot of those ultras in Germany and in Eastern Europe, a lot of them are even straight edge and practice UFC and martial arts, and it's a very disciplined practice. And I think that that's a thread you see, is that it's not necessarily it's not necessarily all about enjoyment, and there is, whether it's leaders or just your peers holding you to a standard, and that's something you don't see as much in the U.S. And I think that, you know, if for those of you who've been around the Fire, it's really, there's a lot of talk about growing the game, growing the numbers, this, that, and the other, and for those Stuttgart fans, they're not trying to get anyone else in the group. Like, if you're down, they want you there, but they're not trying to recruit, and they don't care about season ticket numbers. And I think that's where a lot of the tension that could come in the supporter section is, there's kind of this expectation that we're all welcoming and trying to make sure someone has a great experience. And then you also have people who don't want their view blocked by the flag, or they're disappointed that it isn't like what they saw in the Bundesliga.
Sure.
So there's not, whereas like in other sections around the world, it's much more exclusionary, and you're not just going to walk in with your jersey from the fan shop and be welcomed.
Right.
And that's I'm not saying we need to be mean to move forward, but but the attitude that most MLS teams have is, hey, we want everybody to have a good time. We don't want to, if there's a family of four sitting down, we don't want to make a move, and that's where a lot of the issues are. And it's not like that everywhere, but I think when you look around the world and you see, wow, they're playing this drum for the full 90 minutes, or they're jumping up and down, it's a bit of peer pressure, really.
Yeah, no, I that totally comes through, especially over there. It felt like they're competing themselves.
Right.
You know, like they're not just there to cheer; they're competing with Cologne's cheering section.
And that's something that also I think is really increased with social media, where you have a lot of copycat stuff, but you also have like every Champions League or Libertadores match day, the best like intros, tifos are broadcast around the world.
Right.
And if your group didn't make the cut, it's like an embarrassment. So in the past, you would maybe be competing in your league, maybe you made a continental competition, but you weren't competing against people from around the world. And I think that is what's changed it, and that everyone's trying to be at that top level, and that includes in the U.S. And there's some good competition between groups in North America, but it doesn't always translate, day in, day out the way it does elsewhere.
Right.
But like you said, though, it does become a competition, right? And then what I think that what you have to consider in this aspect, though, is that like the sport in itself and the culture of the supporter group is just so interwoven into their entire, communal culture, where at that point you're not only just there to cheer on a group, you're not there just to cheer on, your team, but rather, you take it as a defense mechanism for all these other like the other neighborhood you're playing against, right? And, you have to figure all of these, teams in Europe that did come from, worker movements, right? So it's like the pride behind that team is interwoven like way, way, way down the line.
Because it's not just about the team itself. The
Correct.
team is representative of the workers' unions that are there.
That's
Some
right.
of them some of those teams actually came from those workers' unions
Exactly.
or those job sites and so
Right.
forth, which we have sort of that history here with Bethlehem Steel, where the workers of that company
That's right.
became into that. So it's more.
Yeah, it's
of
more
just-
grassroots, more
yeah.
like just like I said, it just goes down to the core and people, right? So you're not just there for lack of better words, but you're just not there for a fun time, right? It's not a picnic, right?
Is that kind of sort of why?
day.
Is that kind of
not
sort
a
of?
Yeah, no, it's work.
Do you guys believe?
It's the work.
Yeah. Do you guys believe that because there isn't that depth to it here, that MLS has issues really building their groups?
I think a part of it is that you have to be authentic to what's your team and what's your city and everything else.
Correct.
And that a part of the issue is that people want a kind of copy and paste thing.
Right.
And it just doesn't work like that. And even some of the teams that got off to a really good start, or people were hyped up, like in Austin or even Orlando and all these different teams, you can name a lot of them. Second, third season, it really started to fall off, both in the supporter section and elsewhere. So it has to be sustainable, and it's just, to say it can't be done overnight is obvious, but I think that a part of it is, like, you mentioned the night out. That was a scandal a few years ago. Michael DeLeu of Dutch Forward for the Fire gave an interview to the Dutch media saying that people in MLS were just there for a Saturday night out, and one of the groups got mad and put up a banner that said "not here" just for like a night out. But if I'm Michael DeLeu or anyone else, I'm looking around the stadium. It's like, I understand taking it personally as someone who was a supporter at that time.
I
But
mean,
if you went to a Feyenoord game versus a Fire game, it's just not the same environment, and you can't just create that out of nowhere. But it's to me, there's a bit of a catch-22, and it happens a lot for those of us who are Premier League fans. You see, I think a lot of the U.S. fans are kind of in a lose-lose situation where if they do something, it's seen as cringe or inauthentic if they're supporting their local team. But then if they are supporting an English team or a team in Europe, it's plastic. So it's kind of like, well, you lose either way, and it's just not something that is going to be the same as a team that's been around for 100 years in a country that's loved the sport. But I think that in all different types of levels within the U.S., there are a lot of things that are authentic. And even Jamie and I have our 20-year Sector Latino anniversary hoodies on. So when you think about a supporters group for the Fire that is older than a lot of the teams in MLS, there is a heritage and a history that gets overlooked, and the way that that's been built, and obviously it was something that was and is very authentic to the Chicagoland area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think too, just the overall love for the sport drives so much of it everywhere else other than America here. Like from birth, football is pushed so hard in
Right.
the European countries and around the world to where it becomes that passion. It becomes blood, sweat, and tears from an early age. I also think just overall sports in America has become so commercialized that
Absolutely.
going out, like, it is just a day out in the park for most people. Not just
And that's
football,
exactly
but,
what
like,
ownership
American
wants.
they're
football,
trying to sell it that
baseball,
way, yeah.
any of the sports. what can I do in the stadium? What kind of campus can I build? What can I put a playground outside so the kids have something
Can
to
I
do?
bet in the concourse?
Right.
Right.
So
ain't around with that.
it's hard to get people passionate enough to want to be a part of supporters groups, or just find enough people with that passion to be able to have an impact. I mean, you could probably easily find 10 people that believe as much as we do to start a group and be passionate at the stadium, but that's going to be drowned out by little kids screaming because you can't get cotton candy and stuff like that.
That reminds me of when I went to the USA Honduras World Cup qualifier before I even like lived out here, and we had like our buddy. We actually had it's like three rows, and basically that's what basically was the 50-yard line. We had the first 3 rows, and we were just rowdy. We were just like rowdy, and all of a sudden there's like this little family of 4 right behind us, and we're like, matches up. We're all standing. They're just like, "Hey guys, can you guys sit down?" And we all just like turn around. And we're like, "You better stand up." Like, what are you telling us? Like, we ain't doing that. And eventually we just let the kids get in the front row, and then they had a blast. But we're like, no, like, what are you talking about? This is a World Cup qualifier. We mean sit down. Like, that's not what this is about.
What this sport does.
It was like, oh, first time?
Yeah.
Yeah, like being in we were in Columbus last weekend for the opener, and there's a good amount of Fire fans there in the away section, and then I turn around and up towards the top of the section, there's just a mom with her kid getting settled in under a blanket in Columbus stuff, and it's like,
Right.
They did end up getting relocated, but that's one where if you're not familiar with the culture of what an away section is, why you can't wear that jersey there even though it's a home game, it's going to feel very odd and maybe disruptive to you, but that's one where in most of the stadiums around the world, they would have never even made it anywhere close. Like you were talking about the entrance in Stuttgart, in England and in other places, there's a separate entrance exit from the train.
Yeah.
So
Not
even,
No, the security starts way before you even get to the stadium.
And sections are like gated off, so
do.
once you're in that section, that's it.
Right.
You can't come in with your blankie and your son.
No, you're not going to be able to just like walk around the stadium and just like, I'm not even watching the game. No, you're stuck there.
Yeah, you have your own concession section, and it's all.
I think that was brought up at the supporters meeting, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
It's like because it's like Fire games, like White Sox games. It's like you go in
Everybody's
there, and
everywhere,
like there's someone in an orange jacket. They're just sitting there like, yo.
It's happening.
Like they don't check out every week. See, when Sox about to start playing, it's gonna happen every game. Like you just buy a ticket, just go wherever you want. There's no structure. No, you just go in. It's like, oh yeah, just go ahead, sit down there, man. We don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
That's been another tension over the last few seasons. Is that, like I said, there's sort of this idea that you have to be welcoming and want to grow not only your group but the supporter section, and then the attendance overall. And one thing that became contentious was kind of this: do we need to check tickets in the supporter section, or do we want people to just wander in and have a great time? And there was a little bit of a divide that was kind of like, well, those of us who have had issues with security in the past, issues with away fans, we're the ones who are going to be punished literally for this or have safety issues, and we're not really down to just sign up for that for the growth. And that's like that would never even be considered in the rest of the world. Even if you take the supporters out of it, you can't come to the section, you don't have a ticket there.
Yeah, see, it's such a weird perspective from, I don't know if this is coming straight from ownership or MLS or...
It was other supporters as well who
it's
didn't
weird
want
because
to check the tickets.
there's I mean, I understand that. Like, don't check the tickets if it's your local fan base coming in and sitting down in the supporter section. I get it. But when some dude from Texas wearing a Texas flag, like, hey, you might want to have a check already in balance to, hey, dude.
But there's
like,
also a lot of...
That's not another a direct supporter. That's the conflict you don't want, right?
And it can get even more complicated. And with starting up Leagues Cup, we faced a lot of this with, a lot of people in the sector are fans of a team in Mexico, and it's like, okay, well, if we're playing them, we don't want any of those jerseys in the section. But then if it's another game that's against another MLS team, there also might be issues with people from those teams. So it's just, and you're expecting, a 16-year-old from Monterey to know the difference between Chivas and Southampton. It's not realistic, but it means different things for different people, and it's very different from the rest of the world for sure.
Which is what I was gonna say, right? It's like now you have this whole like re-education of the security people at Soldier Field, where it's like, yeah, we know the rules. Like I will tell anybody, like, sorry man, wrong jersey, get out of here.
Yeah.
But again, like once you don't have security on your end, because I mean earlier when we were drinking over there, we were talking about how like you look at games in Europe and there is a stewardess and there's a security guard every other step, right?
And then there's
separating
actual
everybody.
police, like actual
correct.
SWAT,
Right. Not,
SWAT teams,
correct.
you know,
Not,
like,
like exactly like Nate said, right? Not just another 16-year-old like
or riot police. It's riot police.
Literally riot police.
Yeah.
And I think that in some ways, you know, I was talking a long time ago to someone I worked with who was a big Notre Dame football fan. And I was explaining to him, like, you guys are missing out by not doing an away section. Like, when you score and you could feel the anger of the whole stadium and you're cheering, like, that's a great feeling. And he was talking about being a Notre Dame fan and going to Iowa and having people throw stuff at him. And even, like, we're talking about the Bears, like, you know, when they play the Packers, it's a whole mix. Like, if the Packers section was 2 sections, you know, I think it would just be better for everyone. And I think that U.S. sports overall could learn from that because every weekend in the NFL, you see videos of people fighting from different teams.
Oh,
Yeah.
But that's the
Reddit
thing.
is great.
Yeah, Reddit is
Sunday. Oh my goodness.
It's like
But here's the thing, that again, it seems like the ownership in the United States is leaving the onus on the public. Like, oh, you're the ones that are liable. It's if you hit someone else or you do something else, it's a criminal act, and then the police are just going to escort you out, and then that's that. But they don't do anything to prevent that from even ever occurring.
It goes way beyond home and away and supporters, and it comes down to ticket prices and money. So there's, you know, been a lot of teams in U.S. sports who have bragged, like the Chargers were always on the receiving end of this. 80% of the fans are Eagles fans. And the reason that happened was because Charger season ticket holders or people on the secondary market sold their tickets. So people at all levels made money off selling off their home team. And if you do that for the major teams in Europe, you may get beat up, A, and B, you might get your season tickets revoked.
Yeah.
And not only is it your
Banned.
pride on the line, whereas like with Messi and things like that, there's this, do people want to flip their tickets and all this, and that's just a non-starter around the world. So part of it is it's not even about the away versus home. It's that, like, think about all the money Packers fans over the years have given to the Chicago Bears organization by buying tickets. And do they really want to turn that down to do a soccer-style home and away, even though it would be a safer and probably more fun environment for fans of both teams? And the answer is probably no. You know?
I don't know what happened at Barcelona recently, though. Everybody sold their tickets, and that one German team came over and took over their stadium.
Oh, yeah, and actually
that's right.
Arsenal with Cologne, but that was very much – the Arsenal-Cologne was a true takeover where the game had to be delayed for a while. And you even saw it with Rangers and Manchester United and Celtic and Villa. So, like, it can happen, but I know that at least in both the Celtic and the Rangers example – fans of the home teams were outraged, both that the people who sold their tickets and security for not locking it down in a way that the U.S. it wouldn't be viewed in the same way.
Well, I mean, that's the big conversation we're having nowadays in the section, right? It's like, how do we mitigate, you know, obviously these tickets get sold. The team wants to sell tickets. They want to, quote-unquote, pack the stadium, but it's like not necessarily with the product on the field, but they just sell, right? And anybody could buy a ticket in the supporter section. And it's like, how do we mitigate, you know, the family of 8 just walking in right before we all march in, and they sit in the front row.
Right.
And now they're mad that we're jumping around them.
And even the
so rough.
They added last season on the actual digital ticket, it says no away fans. And when I saw that, I was like, that's great. But I'm like, I wonder how many people who bought these tickets know what that phrase means. Because it is a very soccer phrase. And if you aren't familiar with it, you're probably like, what does that mean?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that absolutely makes sense. You know, don't mix the groups together. But then again, it shouldn't be up to the fan base that's there, the supporters groups and so forth, to be enforcing that. Because now you just have regular Joe going up to regular Joe and saying, hey, you can't sit here. Well, I mean, my ticket says I can. Well, yeah, but, you know, issues might occur.
That just kind of makes me think of just like the American culture that I think about as like kids growing up. It's like, you know, I coached soccer for like 7 years. And, you know, there's like when I was younger, it's like, oh yeah, you get to a point where, you know, in America where all of a sudden the kids are playing 4 different sports, and it's like they're just playing sports because they're just playing sports. So it's like, oh hey, we're gonna go to a fire game. Let's go to a fire game. And we're going to sit here because maybe the tickets are cheap and just bring the kids because they just don't know what's going on because they're playing 8 other sports and they're just doing it because this is what they do. This is what we're going to do. My child's going to be like, even if they don't care because they don't care. Right. It's like, so yeah, they just go in there thinking, hey, we're just going to have a day.
Right.
but don't know anything about the culture of soccer. They're just
Right.
doing it because Jim wants to play with Stan and Ryan. you know
How
what I'm
many
saying?
times do you watch a game not in the U.S. and you see a youth team wearing their uniforms in a different color?
Yeah.
Like, it's all those kids play youth soccer, but when they go to the stadium, they wear the jersey of the team or they wear something neutral.
Right.
But at the Fire, we have every rec team on the southwest side out there in a rainbow of colors, and that I think that just kind of illustrates the difference. Is that we talked about this on the show before, but overall in the U.S., soccer is a sport you play, not that you watch and not that you're a fan of, and I think that's where a lot of the tension that you have is that it's changing slowly, but people view it as a recreation, and that's why I'll go with my kids' team to the game because they play soccer, so we're going to watch soccer, but I don't take it seriously the way I do the Bears and the Sox, and it doesn't look like what I saw on USA Network this morning. So
Yeah.
But see, that's the thing, though. So, like in the United States, the supporters group sections and just being a supporter group at all is brand new. This is a new thing to the culture of the United States. So these are rules that have been in place for about 100 years in other areas, and all of us here learn them because we grew up watching soccer. We grew up watching soccer in other countries or playing soccer in other countries. So we learned those little rules, those little things that are just, the first thing.
What-
Hey,
what
no,
away
don't.
fans
Yeah,
means.
what away fan means. Where do away fans sit? Why there's a riot police lined up down that corridor?
why did that Newcastle fan punch the horse?
Oh, we know why.
I may
We
not
know
tell
why.
this on the Josh.
We know why. Why did that guy put the flag in the middle of the field? Yeah.
And I'm actually really interested to see, as we host the World Cup in 2 years, while the supporters groups for national teams aren't quite the same as they are for club level teams, the security and the passion that is needed for these games is going to be such an eye opener.
We got a whiff of that
Look what
this
just happened
summer.
in
Yeah,
Miami
we
now.
weren't ready for
Not at all.
We weren't ready for Colombia. We weren't
No.
ready for that, and then
And
that
that
was,
Uruguay
and then the
thing
next day
that
on
happened,
ESPN,
yeah.
it was it was like you should have been expecting this.
Wait, was that the game where they had the Argentina? Or was that the game where
There
like
It was-
multiple incidents.
Yeah, there was
like
there was a
walking through the vents and
Uruguay.
stuff.
I know there was an Uruguay one because Darwin Nunes was throwing
Yeah.
chairs.
doing the Irishman? Is that the one?
Yeah, it's like, dude, you're putting up the Dukes. Like
The crazy thing about that, right? That's a whole other point because it's like, they are different when you start talking about like national team supporter groups. But then most of the time, I mean, like take the example of Argentina versus England back in Mexico '86, right? It's like it is all these smaller team supporter groups that end up getting together. Traveling together and then bringing that same force, right? It's like, all right, for this game, like I don't care if you're from LA and we're from Chicago, like this is for the US, right? And it's like you're not gonna get that here, right? And I think people are not ready for it because guess what? Those Argentinian teams, those English teams, they're all coming together and they're all gonna come in like looking for
we
blood,
had
for lack of better words.
Yeah, we had a little taste of that with Beta 76, which is the like Latin style group for the U.S. that I'm a part of, and some other people from Sector, where other people from the group are from rival groups club-wise of Sector, and there's a little bit of a tension there, but I think it's been interesting to get the different perspectives and kind of have some funny conversations about all of it. But I think that is one where it's on a much bigger scale, but it is starting to change a little bit here, and I think a part of it is the notion that you can the kind of club and country idea, where I think if you look at both supporters groups and fans in general, the country piece came first because a lot of these places didn't have professional teams at any level. So if you look at like where American Outlaws started, it was North Dakota. So, the closest MLS franchise would have been probably here, right? So it's like, and there wasn't the USL and all this. So, and also it's a different engagement because the national team games are a lot less frequent. So you can save up money and go to a decent amount of them with relatively cheap air travel and stuff like that. So there are people out there, which I don't think really occurs in other countries, where they are just national team fans and they aren't really club affiliated. I think that's changing a little bit, and it's more of a dual thing. But historically, the groups people knew about were the U.S. groups, and they may have not had a club.
Yep. You're listening to WLPN LP Chicago 105.5 FM Lumpen Radio. You're listening to Lumpen FC. We are covering SGs today and perspectives on SGs, and we have a bunch of SG members in here tonight. Supporters groups for football, for soccer, the global game.
Was that the game we were talking about? Americans not being ready. So was that the
Colombia,
game? Was
the
that
Colombia
was that the
game.
Copa? What was the Copa?
Was it Colombia?
Was it the Copa game where it was after Copa Libertadores, and I think it was Copa over here, and it was like Brazil was Argentina maybe, and then basically, but like there's like a bunch of Argentina fans surrounded by Brazilians, and they had
which
and you could just see the security. They're just like they kind of
that was not in the U.S.
That was in the U.S. Okay.
In Brazil, right?
Yeah.
That was okay.
The one that I was talking about was the one that happened this past summer, I believe.
Yeah,
And
the final for Copa.
Okay.
And what had happened was, if I remember correctly, and you guys can fill in the gaps. I remember like a lot of the players' like families were in one section, and they were surrounded by rivals. And it's like, what do you do?
What state was that in?
So no.
I can't. Is that incorrect? Or
that-
what
It was
happened?
like a semifinal game. I think.
There was a lot of incidents during
No,
the
that's the thing.
One-
That's the thing. Are we actually ready for this?
No,
Are we sure
so
we're ready?
The issue for the final was it was Colombia against Argentina at the old Pro Player Stadium, now Hard Rock Stadium, where the Dolphins play.
This was Florida. Okay.
Yes, and so Miami has the biggest population for both those countries in the U.S. to begin with, and then obviously a lot of people traveled for it, and they're supposed to have a perimeter where you do multiple ticket checks. And I experienced this. We went to Dallas in the same competition, and they first checked our ticket. We were probably 700 feet from the entrance. So if you didn't have a ticket, you weren't anywhere close. But they didn't do that in Miami, so people rushed the gates and were climbing up.
Did they break into the ventilation system?
Yeah.
I saw videos of that.
Okay.
And then it
Yeah,
became
yeah, yeah.
unsafe because inside was starting to get overcrowded and they had to delay the kickoff and all this. And this was
That's
the
right.
final, so it was a major embarrassment, but there were other issues at other games. And most of these were World Cup venues. So that Miami Stadium's a World Cup venue. I was also at the USA-Uruguay game at Arrowhead Stadium. That was also not ready at all for that kind of event. People were waiting for Ubers on people's lawns, hour after. It was just like, the stadium wasn't even close to being full. So it's just there's a long way to go in terms of infrastructure and security and just awareness.
I remember looking at security's faces when that was happening, and
Yeah.
the Florida State Patrol, so they had they used to say no Florida Georgia game, so they kind of like in their little big old State Patrol hats, and you could see that people just weren't ready for it because even the security there, they turned around, they're like, what is going on behind me? They're like, oh, hold up, like this is getting real.
They'd be chasing one guy and then like five more would use it as a distraction.
They didn't know. They was calling just back up on back up. We don't even know what's going on. We like, just come on up here, y'all. Just come get in the stands. We just need y'all in the stands.
Definitely. And it is kind of an awakening for a lot of American fans of American sports, baseball, hockey, whatever it may be. Well, hockey can get ratty crowd. But there's one game that I took a friend of mine down in Houston. It was Mexico contra who knows? I can't remember. But it was just all Mexican fans. It was all Mexico fans. And it was culture shock. She was like, "I've never seen anything like this before. Like this was absolutely insane."
Was it at the Texans Stadium?
No, this was at the Dynamo Stadium.
Oh, okay. Well.
Back then it was BBVA. No, like absolutely has never seen a crowd that rowdy, has never seen a crowd that organized because they were doing great chants. Has never seen a crowd throw things on the field. And I was like, that's all. That's all part of it.
You like to throw stuff.
Like, are they throwing beer? It may not be beer. So it's like, and it's a culture shock. And I think that for security and security firms, because they hire out private security, I don't know if they're ready.
Well, I wonder, because the U.S. has hosted it before in '94, so I'm wondering how it was done back then, and or what were the incidences back then?
I've always wondered about that, as because I was.
There was never any reports.
But that was also at a time where England specifically was just on the cusp of kind of eradicating hooliganism.
Right.
But I think one thing that has been different for the World Cups and will be different for this one is that in 1994, international air tickets were really expensive. So it was just not practical for a lot of these hooligans to even get on a plane.
True.
But now it's a lot cheaper, and people are also just used to, like, for example, English people love going to Las Vegas. There's tons of direct flights all the time. Like, it's not unheard of to do that, and I think that there's definitely a possibility that for different teams and countries that there'll be a big group of people here. I think that the political situation is also I know that FIFA asked the Trump administration about visas for a lot of the visiting fans, so that's also up in the air. But I can just say, as someone who's been to a lot of stadiums now, that type of event the U.S. is not ready for, because they even from MLS, normal MLS matches to Copa America to other things over the years, there's just a lack of awareness and management.
I can feel like, 94 may have just been a nice little, like, tourist, like, that people just come over to America and hit Disney World and stuff like that, because people were, soccer, let's be real, 94, people weren't really caring about soccer.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, not here.
Not here, yeah, exactly. So in America, they're like, most people probably at the crib.
But I also,
like everyone else is like racking up on this money from the tourists.
So like for Qatar, for example, you know, when you watch those games in Qatar, the crowd was overall very subdued. And a part of that was not selling alcohol. A part of that was your average. Some fan groups really showed out, like Peru really showed out for that World Cup. But overall, that's a hard country to get to. It was very expensive. There was limited hotels, so there wasn't really a home nation the way it was when it was hosted in like Brazil or Germany and places like that. So I think the U.S. is going to be a mix of some of the more, especially with the different, immigrant groups we have here who are passionate about their teams. But I think there's also going to be that Super Bowl type crowd of wearing the lanyard, wanted to go to a World Cup game, so they're at Jamaica against Iceland, just taking it in. And I think select matchups will have very good atmospheres with the respective fans, but I think a lot of them are going to be a tough scene, especially with the expanded field.
As for 94, I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on. I also feel that it had to be a success. It could not go wrong in any way, shape, or form. So if there were any issues, they would probably never heard about them.
And it's before the internet, obviously, so someone could have just uploaded a video of someone getting
right. Because I do remember very rarely would they pan out into the stadium, into the fan base, unless it was the beginning of the game and the end of the game. There weren't that many reports. I mean, ESPN was kind of covering it, I guess. How ESPN would cover soccer back then, right? But like on your local news, on ABC, NBC, it was very rare that there was a report of like, hey, this is what happened in the World Cup today.
Right.
So and not only that, for MLS, because they were the reason MLS was around was because we wanted a World Cup here. You have to have a league, right? So that was the league put in place. And then for the two directors of FIFA that were set for the United States World Cup, they had to make sure it went off without a hitch, So that's my perspective on that one, because it was rare that you would hear anything on the news, anything. You hear the scores and then like, okay, that's it. That was the World Cup.
Everything worked out just fine. We do have to step some stuff up. A couple of weeks ago, when my man just took a right turn in front of the barricade. You know what I'm saying, in New Orleans, so if we over here sleeping on that.
Not taking the Super Bowl seriously.
Right. The billions and billions of dollars that thing brings in. So, you got to get together, man. Right. That can't be happening. Yeah,
you're looking at the most popular sport in the world. Average is around 3.8 billion people with a B that watch the World Cup. It might be more this time around because national teams more national teams, I think, are making it now. So
48 now.
Yeah, so you're gonna have more eyes, on advertisement.
We'll have that many MLS teams by then too. That'd be great. That'd be fantastic.
Now, talking about that perspective of like, okay, it's definitely there's a lot of people involved. There's 3.8 billion people. There's a lot of money involved in football, the game itself. And slowly, from what I've been seeing, is that the fan bases, especially here in the United States, have been slowly pushed out as involvement occurs. How politically involved, and I say politically because we have to make decisions on how much money is going to be put into stadiums by the municipality. Like you said, infrastructure. FIFA will ask you to rebuild your city. The downtown area, you need to redo the whole thing. You need to put streets in here. You need to make this occur. You need to change your mass transit. How much should SGs and the people of a city be involved? There's one city who just came out with it. Was it San Francisco? Who was like, I think it was San Francisco. I don't know, one of the cities in California that won a bid. Like, how are we going to pay for this? Like, how are we going to pay for what they're asking for? Like, we can't afford this. Right. Should the people be more involved in that type of stuff, that decision making? And would SGs as groups, large groups, some of them are big, some of them are really big, can push a mayor or an alderman in a certain direction to like,
Well,
hey,
I mean,
look.
that's probably why I think it was Rom at the time was like, nah, we're not hosting this. Yeah,
Well, I think a lot of people in the city were like, nah, dude, absolutely not.
Yeah, also
we don't have the money.
Yeah.
But I, heard,
I know
like,
I was like, no, we can't.
There's with the Chicago, you know, my brother was City. He was always saying like, Chicago doesn't need Olympics. Chicago doesn't need World Cup. We don't need tourist money. We don't need to pay anyone to have people to come into the city. And because it's Chicago, we're not like we're over here fighting over this Bear Stadium.
And the socks.
Like anyone's there, and it's like and then listen, the Bears. They're like, hold on, wait. You said how much money we are paying for this?
Yeah, exactly.
Nah,
that's not gonna happen.
No.
The traffic situation.
Well, we're gonna leave.
We
Bye.
we couldn't even deal with it, and it's be more stress for the city of Chicago to even deal with that. And again, we have plenty of money here on tourists as is. You don't need a World Cup.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They just need a Super Bowl, I guess.
Yes.
Which whatever it is. I mean, keep pumping those Taylor Swift concerts up, or Beyonce concerts, because
that's why I asked this question also, because if you bring the Super Bowl here, if you bring the World Cup here, I can't afford to go. I can't afford to go to the Super Bowl. I don't have $10,000 for a ticket.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying about the when we were talking about the away fans concept, is that's one that is also new to the U.S. is the idea of rewarding loyalty for fans. So, like, we kind of had a taste of it when Messi first came, and it happened mid-season, so you had season ticket holders who were locked in, but you had a lot of supporters who had been attending for a long time who suddenly, especially when it was first announced, were looking at tickets that were, 50 times the normal price. And that's something where I've always admired some of the models from other countries where, if Liverpool makes a Champions League final, they are giving tickets to people who have been to a lot of games over the years. Yeah, and there's like a hierarchy that you can achieve, but it's not just, my team made the final and it's going to go to the highest bidder. So like the Eagles in Philadelphia have a very dedicated and violent fan base. Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
When they get to the Super Bowl, it's not the guy in South Philly who's been going since the 70s. It's whoever can pay the most money.
Right.
And I think that's always been a sad state of affairs for U.S. sports.
Absolutely.
And when I started to find out how things worked elsewhere, I was like, wow, this is, to me, feels a lot more right. And when it comes to MLS, we're in that zone where, sometimes they want to respect the supporters and they'll do things up until a point.
Yeah.
Appeasement.
Yeah, so like I think, for example, for the Miami tickets for the last few years, yes, we are paying less overall than you would pay on StubHub, but we're not paying the normal price either. So there's a lot of situations like that where it ends up being a hybrid where we're not the Eagles, but we're not Liverpool. We're depending on the day, depending on the regime, depending on the prices, we're gonna be somewhere on that sliding scale.
Which kind of brings us back to the whole point of like, how much do supporter groups need to get involved and like actually protest this kind of stuff, right?
Because I think they have to get involved.
100%. I'm behind all that. I mean, if you look at it, even before Messi came in, Austin FC was charging ridiculous prices for away fans. I mean, they were charging like $150 for a seat or something ridiculous like that. Where if you are one of us who wants to travel everywhere and the team was going to play in Austin, you don't know when the next time was, you couldn't afford it. How are you going to afford airfare, lodging, all that good stuff? But then you do have then movements like what the Independent Supporter Association has been doing, where there has been communication with the MLS, the all the lower divisions where it's like, hey, we need to cap away supporter tickets at 85, right? And it's like now, Miami, Austin can't charge you more than that, and that's it. So it's like I think that when you do get supporter groups and these organizations involved, when they start protesting, it does cost something.
Yeah.
It does lead to some change.
Yeah, and there's like we kind of started off talking about the Bundesliga, and they were one that it wasn't even prices. It was playing games on Monday night, and different ultras groups from all different teams really disrupted the games. They threw tennis balls on the field. They had remote control cars.
The remote control cars.
It was
the remote control cars.
Yeah.
That was just beautiful.
It was all kinds of stunts, and as an American, I was like, because I'd seen them protest things like the prices and away fans and things like that, but just playing on Monday night, like, we're as an American, you're coming from an environment where, like, for NFL, they'll flex your game to a different day a few weeks before because of TV. And that even happens in the Premier League as well. And it's like that just showed you the differences even within Europe in the cultures. And I think that realistically, that's not something that would be possible. It's possible, but in terms of it's just a huge leap. But I do think that every group and every person has a line of what they feel is kind of where they're going to start protesting or no longer going and everything else. Like you mentioned, when Sector got banned, that was kind of what did it for you. And I think even for me, one where, I like the Fire being called Soccer Club. When they changed it to Football Club, that made me mad. And I thought it was stupid and inauthentic. That wasn't enough for me to stop being a fan. But for, I think, a lot of German fans, if you change the name, or like when Cardiff changed from blue to red, we had our own badge issues here in Chicago and color changes, but that's something that people would walk away over. And I think that's the thing that
for sure.
We're in a country where teams move cities frequently and just completely abandon a city. And that's as much as I enjoyed the banter about Columbus when that was happening. I remember they had Higuain from Argentina, and he was like, if they tried to do this in Argentina, a lot of people would die. Like, it's not even something you could fathom doing.
There would be riots.
Yeah.
No way. There would be riots.
It's like, I think with us in the U.S., you try to make the mix that I'm talking about, but I think when it comes to protesting and standing up, that's one that supporters have a long way to go on standing up for some of that stuff, and a lot of it is very much you against the front office of your team, and that can really change year to year and what those different people's backgrounds is and what their approach to supporters is, and it's really a constant struggle because it's not something that, I've over the years had better or worse relationships with different front offices, but there's never been one for the Fire where it's like, well, they totally get it and they're really on supporters' side, and it's not because they're sitting across that proverbial table, it's actual actions that they do that have impact.
Which is crazy, right? Because you also start thinking about, again, it being so different here in the States, where the supporter section here in Chicago, for example, it's comprised of such broad backgrounds where, when, the Sector ban happened, and Section 8 decided, well, then we're not going to do anything too, and we're going to protest, right? But then you start protesting because we want, you guys back in the stadium and everything else. But then you still have, people who are like, why are you protesting? Why are you defying the team? You should be supporting the team. Yeah. You guys are enemies of the Fire, right? So it's like, well,
I know that phrase, but that's something that I think is very tricky when it comes to both U.S. supporters and fans of all sports. Is this idea of being a diehard versus getting taken advantage of. And that's another one where there's, in the U.S., there's kind of an obsession with, like, empty seats and fair weather fans and all these kind of things. But it's like, I feel like I'm using way too many NFL examples. But, like...
well, but those are the examples we have.
Yeah. If you're a Cleveland Browns fan who's been to every Browns fan for the past 20 years, are you a diehard fan or are you a sucker? And it depends on who you ask. Everyone's going to have a different view. But I think, and the Fire have had their own struggles, but it's kind of like, at what point does going to every game mean you're complicit in supporting the bad performance are the things you're unhappy with,
Right.
versus if you walk away, is that actually going to make an impact?
Yeah.
And my personal view over the years has been, especially with the groups, we make a lot more noise literally, but are also a lot more inconvenient in person in the stadium. That's where our power is, and
Right.
getting everybody to not get season tickets or to boycott a game will certainly have an impact. But being that thorn in the side nuisance, I think, is overall a lot more impactful.
Right.
We're talking about a lot of different scenarios, but
Yeah.
overall, that's usually what it boils down to for me.
Yeah, you're also looking at a game of numbers, right? So one of the examples, like, okay, so you just gave the example of the Cleveland Browns, and that's, are you a sucker because they're so bad, because they're such a bad team? But at the same time, it's not, hey, it's you kind of stick with your team through the thick and the thin, right? There is a difference, though, when it's what happened by you don't buy season tickets, where it's like, we don't like you as a group, we're getting rid of you.
Right.
And then that's a whole other. That's not that the team is bad because the Fire are bad. It's that you're taking on a certain group because you don't like the perspective, because you don't like what you see,
And you want to control.
and you want to control it.
Yeah.
And I think that in the United States, there isn't, because the SGs are new. It's a new thing. I'm very, very, very sure the NBA did not like the new organizations that were showing up in the NBA. So I don't know what they're going to do. But it's also, you're not a fan. You're a wallet here. You're money. You're not. I don't care if you buy the. I need you to spend money.
Yeah.
And you can organize all you want, but you will have no power, no control. You will have no say in this. And if we move the team, we move the team because you didn't spend enough money,
And I think,
or because you voted the city to not give us a new stadium.
yeah, and there's been a shift over the last few years where it was very clear that MLS wanted to make supporters a focal point and a differentiator of their experience. So you're going to see these drums, the flags, all of this. You're not going to see that at the hockey game down the street or the baseball game. And the marketing just became so supporter-centric that it became clear that it was like the cornerstone of what they were selling, way beyond the people on the field. And then it became a situation, more so than years past, like the Nelson era was very much about, let's just try to keep these people under control. And it really has shifted where, for the Fire and for all teams, where supporters are seen as a major part of what they're trying to sell. Where the issues come in is they want you to be loud if you're saying the right things, and they want you to be visible if you're saying the right things. When you start to stray from that, that's where the tension comes. And there's been a lot of conflict over the years, not just things that are political, but I've personally been told many times by people within the front office, why can't you just make a flag about the player? Or, the team, why does it have to be your group or your neighborhood? And to me, that's just such a gross misunderstanding of what supporter culture is all about. And one of the people who said that to me, I went and took screenshots from around the world that weekend and just showed him France, Argentina, Japan, that wasn't the norm. And that maybe in FIFA it looked like that, where they just copy and paste the team name around, but that's not what happens around the world. And to say that is, there's a desire to just have, we want this presence, we want the visuals, but we want to control not just the message like, oh no, oh God, there's a Palestinian flag. Like, we wanted to say, this is our new signing, our new coach, get behind him.
Which is so hypocritical, right? Because you come in and, we have all these fans that I'm like, all right, guys, no pyro because we're going to get in trouble, right? But then it's like, what happens? As soon as some pyro goes up, that is the image the MLS uses. That is the image that MLS is like, oh, look at us. We're having this much fun. It's like, but you also find this team $50,000.
There's also
right?
there's also that whole, I guess not era, but those few years, what was it, like 5 to 8 years, where there was the issue about flags, right? So you had certain teams who, because their culture was LGBTQ plus or Antifa, no, you can't have that. It's not going to be aired. You're not allowed in the stadium. And at the same time, on the other hand, you had groups that were the opposite of that, who were in the stadium wearing their colors and their names and so forth. And that didn't seem to be an issue, or was handled completely differently. So there's also where there's that two-side story to MLS. Well, we're going to handle this group this way, and we're going to handle that group that way. we're not going to handle anyone the same. Everyone's going to be handled. I mean, and where as a SG member, as a fan, where are you drawing those lines? Because they seem to move quite a bit.
Yeah, they're very fluid, unfortunately. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, wait. It was like, wait, what do you mean? Because I'll give you an example. I mean, last year we deployed a banner that said, no playoffs for what is it now, like 7 seasons. It's like priceless, right?
Right.
And it's like, well, their rule 2 years ago was get this banner approved. Once the banner is approved, then it's approved forever. And it's like, all right, it was. And as soon as it deployed, right, then we had people coming right up to us like, hey, put that down. And it's like, why?
Who was in the VAR box? Who was in the VAR box? Like, oh no.
Yeah, right. And then it's like, hey, you said this was approved, and at that point it's like, oh man, they got us, right? Like, it was approved. Here we go.
It's shifted and it's moved back and forth. So like, for example, when Raphael Wiki was the coach, I remember we got Wiki Out banners approved. And they were like, it's not offensive. It's not. It's like
not.
It's about the game. And since then, it's shifted a little bit where now it's like, like I remember that banner you guys had, and there was no swears. It was just the beer prices was also part of the protest, but and they still didn't want that experience. And even like, I remember last year at one point they just sent out the normal email with all the stuff about the game, and then it was kind of at the top like, no Israel or Palestine flags. And I've been to many games in the past where there were Palestinian flags, and it made a lot of sense because Bridgeview is one of the biggest Palestinian communities outside of Palestine. So it was like, well, when it wasn't top of mind for people, that wasn't an issue. And you could bring a Mexico flag and a Finland flag, and probably a Russian flag or Ukrainian flag even, but not these two. And that was one, to my knowledge, at least supporters didn't even ask about that. They were just trying to get ahead of it. And that's one where, again, they really want to make it, I don't want to say sanitized, but at least they definitely want to control the narrative, and they don't want anything to be happening at the games that is just not, I don't want to use the word distracting, but creating a narrative that isn't about, what is it, fire up, Chicago Fire, soccer, bring everybody out. It's a great time.
It's not about the fire. We don't want no distractions.
Right. Which is understandable. Which game are you watching?
Vancouver right
Saprissa.
Vancouver and Saprissa?
Costa Rica
what is that for?
Giants.
The CONCACAF Champions
Oh,
Cup.
CONCACAF Champions Cup.
The greatest tournament.
What was the previous one that you were watching that they handed out medals?
That was
Racing against Botafogo in the Recopa.
That's right.
Oh, wow.
See,
we're always watching football.
Yeah, always in the know, man.
Always watching football.
It's kind of crazy to sports, and I kind of just think about college. College football games and how it seemed like when I was at games, whatever, because they didn't care. We were just college kids. You get free tickets. Student section was always bumping. No matter how boring the game was, you had a good time. But that seemed to be very organized. And you weren't allowed. You weren't allowed to just go into a student section at somebody like most games. Like it's very organized. I was like, why is it like? So why is it now like you go to an MLS game? It's like, oh yeah, you just allow anyone in here, but it's like, granted, college football is billions of dollars. Yeah, it's like there's a lot of organization when you think about this, even though it could be trash. I mean, there are plenty of Iowa games; those are awful, boring. Big Ten football, awful. But student section was always there; they were always coordinated. They had to blah blah. You know what I'm saying, and I was just like, but it's maybe because it's just have so much more money, and maybe security's just way better. Yeah, there's just more organization. I don't know, but that just kind of baffles me. I'm thinking about it. I go to all these games, and it's, we have this organization, supporters groups, and we're talking about how, like, security, and there's, like, all these games and all these college teams, everyone's actually in their spot where they need to be.
Yeah, I think college, in that sense, is a little bit easier to organize because it's one like mind. Everyone
free tickets, gonna get drunk.
Yeah, tickets are super cheap if you're a student. I remember when... And they live there?
Right. Yeah. We do live in Chicago.
I was paying I think it was like $10 or $12 for a ticket.
I paid that for fire tickets.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That ain't an excuse.
But I'm talking about a stadium that would fill with 80,000 people. Like 60,000 people back then.
A part of it, I think, beyond living close by and the prices is
we might have paid less.
Is the idea of like identity and that.
Yeah.
Iowa Hawkeyes is a big thing in that area, and if you go to Iowa, most likely that's something you're looking forward to, where people see certain aspects like maybe the Cubs, the Red Sox, teams like that as this is an experience that I associate with the city. I might go once, but if I'm not a fan of the sport or whatever, I might not go again.
Right.
But the Fire in Chicago is not at that level where people that are new either are natives or new and wherever they're coming from are, I got to make the Fire a part of my identity because now I live in Chicago. And
That's going to be different. And you're listening to WLPN LP Chicago 105.5 FM Lumpen Radio. You're listening to Lumpen FC. We'll be right back and continue with this topic with a different perspective as well after this break.
This is Sadie Woods, and I'm bringing you Gridlock Sound Lab, Rush Hour Radio featuring house, Afro-Latin rhythms, world beat, disco, funk, soul, electro, and indie dance music. Gridlock Sound Lab, first and third Fridays at 4, only on 105.5 FM Lumpen Radio.
Weird Lady Music is now on Lumpen Radio every first and third and sometimes fifth Friday of the month at 7 p.m. My name is Baltazar, and I will be your host playing weird music made by ladies and music made by weird ladies across genres, geographies, and generations. Join me, citizens.
Have you ever felt there was more to this world than you could understand? Join me, DJ Hammond, for Spirit World. Every first and third Wednesday from 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. on Lumpen Radio. Spirit World is a showcase of sounds designed to transport you to another world. Spiritual world that we cannot see or feel.
Lumpen Radio is supported by the Museum of Contemporary Art Chicago. The MCA champions the new and unexpected in contemporary art and culture through its exhibitions, performances, programs, and collection. Located in the heart of downtown Chicago, the MCA boasts the award-winning MCA store, the Marisol Restaurant and Bar, a 300-seat theater, and a terrace sculpture garden with a great view of Lake Michigan. Every Tuesday, the MCA is open until 9 p.m. and is free for Illinois residents. The MCA also offers free admission for anyone 18 and under all year long. For more information, visit mcachicago.org.
Welcome back. You're listening to WLPN LP Chicago 105.5 FM Lumpen Radio. You are listening to Lumpen FC. We were just talking about the political aspect of being an SGs, and just the last question I have on the politics of SGs. Seeing the what is going on right now within the United States, do you think that SGs will move more towards a functional or organizational way of protesting or not protesting or even talking about the current situations that are occurring? Is that something that you guys see is possible within the way we are structured? If this was Europe, yeah, obviously, you would have, there's SGs that would sit on both sides of the right and the left, and they would definitely be vocal in the stadiums. And it would be shown live, and it would be recorded and be on the news. Here, since there is, I'm not going to call it censorship, but censorship of the fan base. They don't show posters, they don't show flags, they won't put that on the cameras.
No, we show Taylor Swift.
If you have, yeah, we show Taylor Swift. If you have a chant that is loud enough, they'll cut it off. So how do you guys see that might be the direction for SGs, or what would they do in this aspect right now?
Well, the thing is that, like, the censorship is happening, right? Like, we have noticed it.
Yeah.
There's banners, things that never show up, even though they do have a good message. I think that, like, a lot of the protests and a lot of the citing is coming, but it's coming more from a grassroots area.
Right.
And it's not going to show up on TV. It's not. But for example, like myself, right? One of the
But
reasons
will it show up on the news?
Yeah, I think if you're loud enough, I think if you're like spreading the word, and don't forget that social media is still out there, right? One of the reasons that I did join Barn Burners, and I was like, all right, this is the group for me, is because of how vocal they were about being anti-racist, like ending homophobia, just being all inclusive all around, right? If you come out to our tailgates, you're gonna see all different types of flags just hanging out. So we do have the trans flag, we have the LGBTQ flag, all the flags. So it doesn't matter who you are, you're welcome, and here you are, right? And I do think that the protests are not gonna be televised, but we all have the power of social media. So if every single time that you do take a picture of me, grilling some hot dogs for people so that they don't get extra drunk at the tailgate, right? But in the background, you do have all these flags. It's like, oh, wait a second. Like, this group is all inclusive. Let me show up. What are they doing? We make sure that we strive every year when we have our charity scarf, if you've ever seen them, the scarf is donated to something. All the money that comes out of that, right? So we have done the Chicago Refugee Fund in 2023. Last year, we did the Trevor Project, right, which is a housing for transgender kids who get kicked out of home. And then, this year we are donating all of our scarf money to Punk Rock Saves Lives, which is, this organization that shows up to punk rock shows and different festivals and just make sure that they bring medications like Narcan, things like condoms to all these festivals so that people are staying safe. So I think that it's not going to be televised. You're not going to see it. It's not going to show up on Apple TV, right? But it is going to show up. Definitely not.
Yeah,
right?
Messi ain't paying no condoms.
You're not going to see Messi.
She's talking about some Narcan, but she don't care about that.
but it is going to show up. And I think that the more that people are blatantly speaking against these things and, supporting what they believe in, then the more it'll keep showing up on social media and the more prominent it's going to become in the community.
Yeah, and I think that, sports does not happen in a vacuum as much as maybe the leagues and the broadcasters wish it would. And I think something like the U.S.-Mexico rivalry has always been heated, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Their neighboring countries. Since 2016, it took on a different attitude for sure. And I think even now with Canada and some of the things that are happening there, that's also it just happened with hockey, even with the Four Nations tournament. But
fight in 3 seconds.
You can't.
Oh boy!
These games, you can't ignore that context, and I think that a part of what happens with any kind of protest or political statement is that there's going to be potentially an attraction that you're drawing for that cause, and also people that you're turning off. And again, if your obsession is with bringing new people and growth, doing anything that's going to be seen as controversial is going to be kind of frowned upon. Now, I think there's certainly ways to be authentic and to have a conscience, and that's what's drawing people in. People don't want a generic, bland, hey, we are Fire supporters, that's it, and the reason they're different groups and the reason we know about these groups all over the world is because they have a unique perspective and identity that's tied to where they're from or tied to something political and everything that can mean. So, like, I think that, as someone in sector, like, a lot of it was being very in your face and Latin and that style, and we're still having conflicts to this day about what's a compromise on that and what isn't. But I think that it doesn't necessarily have to be a banner that says, a message that's explicit or even a flag of a country. It can be, I've certainly felt in places like Cincinnati and Columbus that bringing, a bus full of people who the vast majority of are Latin to sing in Spanish is an act of protest. And you see the reactions, and a part of it is bringing a slice of Chicagoland and something that's authentic to the city and the team to a hostile foreign environment. And Columbus and Cincinnati are recent examples, but it can also be the opposite, where you're going to a Houston or a LA that has a huge Latin population, but you're saying Chicago can hold its own in the same way, and that even though there are commonalities there that we're not having in Ohio, we're still representing our city and our team, and maybe that creates a conflict.
Yeah, and I mean, you just saw a couple days ago Jesse Marsh coming out and railing against the Trump administration, what he was saying.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
What happened? Tell me.
Just calling him out for saying that Canada needs to be a 51st state and along those lines, and he's got to shut up about bringing that into play.
Huh.
It wasn't in a sports context at all, but Jesse Marsh, the head coach of the
Jesse
Canadian
Marsh.
national
Who is an
team,
American himself.
Who is an American?
felt
Got-
like he
got a lot
needed
of
to
beef with America.
had to come out and say something like that. I also think with
I didn't catch that.
political environment in America, you're seeing, we'll call it tribalism, but just people running to what they know into a bubble that reverberates what they're thinking.
Yeah.
So I think within not just soccer community, but just sports in general, you're going to see people divide more, and you get different cliques that are going to end up protesting and probably popping off at some point.
Yeah.
You also just see stuff happen in other countries that is just kind of unimaginable in the U.S. So like recently over the weekend, both Celtic and Rangers played in the Scottish Premier League, and
That's always
well, they didn't play each other, but the Celtic fans had a display that was a memorial for someone who died who was in the IRA. So it was like a funerary thing talking about he was a hero, and Rangers fans had a banner that said like he's a coward and should rot in hell. And it's like, there I'm not going to say there are things that could happen in the U.S. that are similar, but there's a lot of division and a lot of hatred on all sides, but there would never be a situation where one MLS team, first of all, they wouldn't be allowed in the stadium, but there would never be a situation where one MLS team was calling someone a hero and the other was saying to rot in hell, because it's just not. In soccer, generally, it's changing, but generally is more on the left side of things overall. I think that's an assumption that doesn't play out in reality as much as people think, but that's overall how it is, whereas you have a lot of clips over the years of people on Fox News talking about, soccer being socialist and this.
What?
Yeah.
Let me show you. Let me show you Zenit.
Yeah, right. But it's just the sport itself is seen as, from the right wing side of things in the U.S., is seen as being foreign and not something that is quote unquote native to the U.S. So you don't necessarily see these things play out because, like, I couldn't in good faith name a right wing MLS team or fan base. It just doesn't really exist in that context. And even when they are in states or cities that are very right wing, they still generally have views that are not necessarily, and I'm not saying that should change, but that's just the reality.
Well, I think we miss it. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's Chicago Fire, man. They're talking about there's gonna be a free little Dirk thing just come out of nowhere, and then the stand or something, like a message. Is that the message? We're gonna have like a Kanye West message in the stand. I don't think that's gonna happen.
When he performed,
yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but there were people in the Instagram comments being like, the Fire is celebrating a felon and this stuff, and it's like, that is so tame compared to things that occur elsewhere.
You had the big protest when Queen Elizabeth died. You had
Liz's in a box.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, there was the chants.
I mean,
Celtic fans saying that against Villa while Prince Henry was in Prince William was in the box.
Did they
not the other box?
Did they boo? Did the MLS games in Canada, they boo like the national anthems?
Who does that?
Canada.
Canada, they boo.
Canada
like the
booed.
national
They were.
anthems.
I think they still are.
Yeah, they still are.
But I even think the Canadian. The Canadian MLS fans are probably not. I don't know. That I'm not sure they would do that, but I didn't watch those. Yeah, but also it's interesting because people sometimes act like everything is new, and I remember as someone who grew up in the Boston area, Canadiens fans booed the U.S. national anthem in Boston during the first, the invasion of Afghanistan. So it's like people were acting like this is Trump, and it's like, yes, but this isn't. In other World Cup qualifiers like Argentina or Brazil, even in the Recopa, they booed the other national anthem. So it's kind of like people view stuff and have a lot of bias in terms of recency, but these things in a lot of cases have happened before.
Yeah, I mean, sports have been a part of politics since the beginning, since the very beginning. Where we had this attitude or the statements, like keep politics out of my sports, grow here in the United States. I mean, I love sports. I'm deeply involved in sports. I think that started coming out during the baseball era where they were having a lot of issues. Congress got involved and so forth. And I think that's kind of sort of where that mentality of like, hey, look, if you need to get Congress involved into your corporation, into your company, maybe we need to rethink this whole thing. And then the marketing came out to like keep politics out of sports, keep politics out of sports. But you can't. I don't
It also can even be in the structures themselves. Like, you have stadiums in South America and places like Chile where there were massacres that occurred at the stadium.
Yeah.
And even here in Chicago, Soldier Field is a place where Martin Luther King spoke. It's like a truly historical place that over the years has hosted different things. So to me, like, playing games at Soldier Field is a part of that history and a part of everything that the role that Chicago has played in American history. And a lot of that was violent and turbulent. And you can't just erase all that because you want a sanitized experience. And there's certain matchups, there's certain contexts that you just can't get away from. So, like, even not just the U.S. and Mexico playing, there's a lot of things over the years with dual nationals. Now we have situations where you have people that play for the U.S. team starring for America, and you have people on the Mexican team playing in MLS. So the lines get crossed and things get very blurred. And then if you are, like, even for me, who's a Pumas fan and a U.S. fan, like, depending where Zendejas is playing, I'm hating him or loving him. But it's not as a quote-unquote political thing for me, but for a lot of people, I think they wouldn't exactly know how to wrap their head around it. And the stereotype is like the Pulisic fanboys and everything that comes along with that. But it's like it's not that simple.
Well, I mean, even that got kind of heated. Pulisic's
His
little
dance,
the little dance. So people were kind of wondering like what's going on.
It wasn't just him, so it's all right.
It wasn't just him.
It wasn't just him.
him.
It was all good, yo.
Yeah.
Well, kind of, whatever. Who cares?
Are they winning?
No, it's tight.
Still zeros.
Sorry, Vancouver is just not showing them not doing MLS proud right now.
Oh, well, speaking of political statements, there's a half Canada, half Mexico flag being displayed. So
I missed that.
And they're playing a Costa Rican team, so
that'll let you know.
Confused.
So it's like, is that against the U.S.
Are they trying to
or
say
is that
something?
against Costa Rica?
Right.
CONCACAF.
The Champions
Classic.
That might be the best way to do political messaging, is just to confuse everybody.
You got to do this as simple as possible, so
Just like, wait,
it leaves
what?
too many questions. Like, what is
but I think
going on?
solve this riddle.
Yeah, exactly.
I think one aspect of, like, sometimes you'll see these charts online that, and I love this kind of stuff, but it's like, who made it and what are they using? You never really know because it's just a single image, but they'll plot out, like, on an axis, like on the political spectrum, and then like kind of elite versus not. And it's like, you see all these clubs, and some clubs are very famously associated with certain politics and everything else, but it's also, you're talking about tens of thousands or millions of people. So you're lumping everybody in to something that, so like I'll use two examples I'm familiar with. Like, the Liverpool fans have a very anti-royal, anti-establishment in England view, and that's something that they're very proud of. But there was a guy in the cop for a while who was waving a Union Jack, and I think they just like couldn't stop him. And then with Celtic is very also anti-royal and all that, but Rod Stewart is a Tory, and he's like a lifelong Celtic fan, and so he's the own fan base kind of hates him, but he still considers himself a Celtic fan. Sure. So whenever people are kind of lumping a fan base together, there's always outliers. And even in doing some research for the show, finding out that one of the Roma groups, one of the most notorious right-wing teams, was actually communist and left-wing, and was along with Atalanta starting the left-wing ultra movement in Italy. So it's like often there's multiple layers, and especially with social media, you can make a flag and you can put it up and it can say, Costa Rican nationalists, Fire fans, and then that makes the rounds. But does that really represent the fan base and how do you determine who may be hung up a flag versus what the fan base represents is very tricky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's definitely one way to do it. Make it hard to figure out. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's actually a solid question. If you had the, Palestinians for Chicago Fire, how is that good, bad? How is MLS going to decide on those things?
I mean, but that's what I'm saying. Like sometimes, especially historically speaking, like those sort of messages have to be coded, And I'm wondering if that might be like, there's always where there's a will, there's a way kind of thing. So if you, for example, like if you want to do the Palestinian thing, one of the symbols is the watermelon, right? Because it has the colors of the sun. Right. But if you use that, is that politically a thing? Can you reject something like? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just as an example, there might be a better one, but
But it's also one where you have something that you're trying to transmit, but you want the audience to understand it. So, for example, if you had a flag with a
want them to connect the dots.
I don't think they're going to connect the dots.
Connect the dots. They got to connect the dots.
I hear it.
What does this mean?
If you have a group that would be very upset with the watermelon.
Yeah,
you're gonna piss somebody off.
Yeah, I'm just throwing it out there. That last supporters group meeting, there was the last bit.
That's a great example of the message that you're trying to give across and the symbol you're trying to use may not be interpreted.
Sure.
And even I'll give you an example along those lines that some of the Italian groups, and I just saw it. I'm not saying I know why they did it, but we're using the Confederate flag, and my interpretation was, the South versus North in Italy is a big conflict historically, and they said, oh, this stands for Southern rebels. That sounds like us. Not, and even I've seen it in Croatian stuff. So it's like, do they truly understand the symbol that they're using? I can't answer that, but you're trying to get people to understand a message that you're portraying, but either it can be misunderstood or you can end up doing something that you don't even realize what you're putting out there.
I'm gonna go with yes. I played against Croatian teams. They know what they know they're doing. We know how we know how Italy likes treated Victor Osimhen or whatever. So I think they know very well.
Yeah, true.
They don't got black paint for no reason in it.
How Hulk got treated in Russia. Yeah, it was not nice.
They know.
And he was great. Was he a Zenit? Yeah.
He's still great. He's still playing.
He plays for Botafogo.
Yeah.
He plays for Botafogo?
Oh, no, Atletico Mineiro.
And he's destroying.
He's
really
destroying
good.
the family, too.
Yeah.
No.
All right. We only got a few minutes left. So, speaking of SGs, of course, SGs, 100 years, 100-year plus history. As far as we can remember, there was one thing that I read about groups getting together for certain sports from the medieval times, which I wasn't gonna add. I wasn't gonna add to it because I was like, "Is this real or am I? What is this?"
It's when they use a severed head as the ball.
Yeah, but there were groups getting together for a long time. So it's not only that. It's like in Europe and in other countries in South America. So it's also generational, right? You teach it to your kids learn it, they teach it to their kids. What would you like for the SG groups here in Chicago? Let's say Chicago Fire based. What would you like in the future, say 10, 15, 20 years down, for that to be looking like?
I mean, I just went to that first meeting. All I can say is at least a little bit of unity. That's all I could ask for, because I saw that first meeting I went to, it seemed like there's a little.
Oh, that was nothing.
So I was like, yeah.
Oh no, it's way worse.
That's all I could say. Like, I sort of think, I was like, it seemed like there was a lot of dysfunction going on between the groups or everything. But I feel like, I don't know, man. I feel like I went to a Portland Timbers game and it was like, I feel like the supporters groups were all kind of pretty much in line. But it was kind of crazy to see how much, little tensions and people, little groups' opinions could I didn't think it was like that. I guess not as serious. It could be a little simplified, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. That'd be cool to see.
Yeah, I would just say that, to me, you have to do something that's authentic to Chicago. And I think what's authentic to Chicago in 10 years is going to be different than what it is now. But one thing that I know about Chicago is it's a very tribal place. No. And people represent and live and die by their block, their bar, their gang, their team, whatever it might be. And I think people view it as a negative, and often it can be, but I actually view it as a positive where, in a way, the different SGs and how they don't align is as authentic as it gets to Chicago, because we're not monolithic. And an example I was using was someone, because you can view the Bears as a unifying factor, and I think they are, but if you take a bar where they're watching the Bears in Boys Town and you just drop them down into a different neighborhood, a different bar, it's not necessarily going to work out. And for some reason, people think it will work out with the Fire. And to me, it really is a diversity of strength thing where I think there should be watch parties all over the region at every different type of bar and setting and with all kinds of food and drinks. Like, to me, that's success. It's not everybody getting to one and compromising themselves and their group and their identities. So in some type of kumbaya moment, now could everybody get in the stadium and do something unified? Absolutely. But I do think there's a naivety and a kind of wanting to sanitize and bring stuff together in a way that's just not natural.
So what would you like to see though happen in tensions? Like,
I don't want to say the same, but what I mean in terms of it being authentic is, like, even if you look at the way fan groups have evolved, is that a lot of the fans back at the start were of Polish and Mexican heritage, and as time has gone on, I think soccer's become more mainstream. So you have a lot more people getting involved, and it's not this quote-unquote niche immigrant thing anymore, right? So I think as it continues to evolve, 10 years from now, there's going to be another wave of different people and different interests, and I think you're going to look back at something like these hoodies, and it will seem like, that was a different era, and now we're in an era that is more indicative of 2035 or whatever.
I think that, I was going to say, I do agree with a lot of that, just keep Chicago authentic, right? And I think that, like, if you really start looking at the history of the supporter groups and, like, the Chicago Fire culture, it's like, even from the beginning, right? Like, Barn Burners was the sole, like, occupant of Section 8. And then across the stadium, you had the Fire Ultras, right? And we were more of that American type of supporter group, while the Fire Ultras were your hardcore Polish, like, ultra group. And, as much as, like, they were different groups. Once those two groups were able to come to the table, Section 8 was formed, and Section 8 became that mediator between those two groups. Then what happened was actually this creation of something that was authentic to Chicago. But it took both of those groups to come to the table, right? And then, what happened from there? You had 1999, Section 8 gets formed, and then Section 8 became one of the biggest forces in MLS. So much so that you mentioned the Portland Timbers. I mean, like, those guys came here to learn what they're doing from Section 8 at that point, right? So it's like, it's going to keep on fluctuating in 10 years. I do see what we're talking about right now being completely irrelevant. And people may see it as like, man, those were hard times. Or they might just see what I'm feeling and what I'm seeing is like, oh, yeah, like, those were rough times. But, hey, come 25, 26, 27, the new stadium came around or whatever it might happen. And there was a renaissance to it all. And then you start seeing a whole new energy, right? So I think I do subscribe to a little bit of both, where it's like, there's different styles of supporting, but as long as you sort of start listening and talking to each other and talking to everybody else and making it inclusive without, letting go of your current fans and without making it cookie cutter, then you're going to create something great, right?
Yeah, fair. As for us, we just started this group. So I'll introduce us. I guess today is the day with the votes that happened in here in this room today. The Bridgeport Pilsen Firm is an actual organization now. So thank you guys for joining us for that. And you guys for getting those votes in. This has been an interesting show. This has been a lot of fun. And I hope that for the future, I hope that we all come together as a group within our own individual capabilities, as groups, as our own individual groups. But honestly, I just hope the Fire get better.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
That
will bring us all together.
I hope the Fire start winning. Winning.
Come
That'd be
on,
fantastic. Well, I want to thank you guys. I want to thank you guys so much for being here. I do want to bring you back for other updates. What may be happening with the SGs, and talking about European games, EPL. Champions League, all that is coming up in the next shows.
I have nothing to talk about today.
Club World Cup coming
I
up.
do hope to have an MLS liaison join us next time.
No update in European soccer.
It's been fantastic. Thank you all so much for listening. You've been listening to WLPN LP Chicago 105.5 FM Lumpen Radio. Have a good night. Stay warm.